They thought the business already belonged to him. No one noticed the quiet girl sitting in the corner. My name is Eleanor Whitman. I am 82 years old, and for most of my life I ran a family business that everyone assumed would outlive me. But no one ever imagined who I would trust to save it. I founded Whitman & Co. Textiles 46 years ago in Ohio, starting with a single sewing machine and a rented warehouse that smelled of dust and oil. Back then I was a widow with 2 sons and a stubborn belief that hard work could build security. The business grew slowly, painfully, honestly. And as it grew, so did expectations. Everyone believed my eldest son Richard would inherit it. He believed it too. Richard was loud, confident, charismatic. The kind of man who filled rooms with opinions and convinced people he was born to lead. At family gatherings he spoke about when I take over as if it were already written into law. I never corrected him. I simply listened. My younger son Thomas didn't want the business. He moved to California, became a photographer, and rarely came home except for holidays. And then there was my granddaughter, Claire Whitman. Quiet, introverted, observant. The one no one took seriously. Claire was Richard's daughter, and Richard barely noticed her. She was the kind of child adults described as shy, as if silence were a weakness. At meetings she sat with a notebook writing things no one asked about. When spoken to she answered softly and stepped back. People forgot she was in the room. I never did. I first saw it when Claire was 16. She asked me one simple question while helping in the office after school. "Grandma, why do we keep producing designs that aren't selling anymore?" The room went quiet. Managers stared at her like she had committed a crime. Richard laughed. "Sweetheart, leave business to adults." I watched her lower her eyes. But later that night she handed me a notebook. Pages of numbers, observations, customer trends. She was right. Over the years I tested her quietly. I gave her small responsibilities. Inventory audits, vendor calls, financial summaries. She never complained, never bragged. She just worked. Meanwhile, Richard grew louder. He spent more time talking about expansion than understanding operations. He wanted loans, risks, rapid growth without fixing the cracks beneath. I warned him. He dismissed. By the time I turned 80, Whitman & Co. was struggling. Sales were declining. Competition was brutal. And Richard still believed confidence alone could save us. That's when I made my decision. Quietly, legally, irrevocably. I transferred ownership of the company to Claire. Not a shared control. Not a temporary role. Full ownership. I didn't announce it. I prepared for it. The announcement came during a family meeting, lawyers present. When the papers were read, the room exploded. Richard stood up red-faced. "This is a joke," he said. "She's a child." Claire sat frozen. My lawyer spoke calmly. "The transfer is complete. It was signed 6 months ago." Richard shouted. Thomas was stunned. Relatives argued. Accusations flew. I remained silent until Richard looked at me and said, "You destroyed this family." I looked him in the eyes. "No," I said quietly. "I protected it." That day marked the beginning of lawsuits, broken relationships, and public shame. Family dinners stopped. Court letters arrived. And Claire cried in my living room whispering, "I don't think I can do this." I took her hands. "You already are," I said. What no one realized, not Richard, not the lawyers, not the relatives, was that the quiet girl they ignored had been preparing for this her entire life. And what they called betrayal was actually trust. They thought the papers would scare her. They didn't know silence had made her stronger. My name is Eleanor Whitman. I am 82 years old. And this is the part where my granddaughter learned what trust really costs. The lawsuits came fast. Letters with heavy language. Emails filled with accusations. Family members who once smiled at Claire suddenly stopped returning her calls. Richard hired lawyers the same week. He claimed manipulation. He claimed incompetence. He claimed I was no longer in my right mind. That one hurt the most. Claire sat across from me in the lawyer's office, hands folded tightly in her lap. "They're saying I stole it," she whispered. I reached for her hand. "They're saying that because they never believed you deserved it," I replied. The first board meeting under Claire's leadership was a disaster. Senior managers questioned every decision. Suppliers demanded reassurance. Employees whispered in hallways. Someone even said out loud, "She's too quiet to lead." Claire heard it. She pretended not to. At home she broke down. "I don't sound like them," she said. "I don't command a room." I smiled gently. "Leadership isn't volume," I said. "It's clarity." The numbers were worse than we thought. Declining orders, outdated designs, bloated expenses. Richard had promised growth. Claire saw decay. She worked late nights. She listened instead of talking. She asked questions others ignored. She met factory workers, warehouse staff, forgotten clients. They trusted her slowly because she listened. One afternoon she came home with red eyes and a steady voice. I'm shutting down to production line, she said. I raised an eyebrow. That won't be popular. She nodded. But it's necessary. Richard found out. He went public. Local business pages ran headlines. Family business torn apart by inheritance feud. Claire's photo was everywhere. The comments were brutal. She's unqualified. Give it back to the son. This will destroy the company. She didn't respond. She worked. Court hearings dragged on. Richard testified that Claire had no leadership experience. Claire's lawyer presented years of internal reports written by her. Richard didn't recognize her handwriting. That silence in the courtroom was loud. The judge ruled ownership stands. Richard lost. He didn't accept it. He tried to pull clients, tried to convince staff to leave, tried to sabotage contracts. Claire absorbed every hit quietly, then adapted. She modernized designs, cut waste, focused on quality over noise. 6 months later, orders stabilized. 1 year later, profits returned. The same managers who doubted her now asked for her approval. She never mentioned the past. She didn't need to. One evening she sat beside me. They don't see me as quiet anymore, she said. What do they see? I asked. She smiled softly. Consistent. Richard stopped calling. Court cases faded. The family remained fractured. But the business, the one everyone fought over, was alive again. Claire didn't celebrate loudly. She didn't post victories. She simply kept going. I watched her from my chair by the window, knowing I had made the right choice. Not because she won, but because she endured. They laughed when she took the chair. They stopped laughing when she saved the company. My name is Eleanor Whitman. I am 82 years old. And this is the moment when trust proved louder than doubt. The final confrontation didn't happen in a courtroom. It happened in silence. Richard came to the factory one morning without warning. No lawyers. No anger. Just exhaustion. I didn't think she could do it, he admitted, standing across from Claire's desk. Claire looked up calmly. I didn't think I'd have to prove it, she replied. He looked around the office, new systems, organized schedules, focused employees. You rebuilt everything, he said. She nodded. I listened. Richard didn't apologize, but he stepped back. That was enough. Whitman & Co. was profitable again. Not flashy, not reckless. Stable. Claire introduced employee profit sharing, invested in ethical sourcing, rebuilt client trust. People stopped calling her the quiet granddaughter. They called her the reason the company survived. I watched from the sidelines as my strength faded. Age has a way of softening pride. One evening I called Claire to my bedside. Promise me something, I said. She leaned closer. Never become loud, just to be heard. She smiled through tears. I won't. When I passed, there were no lawsuits left. Only results. Years later, a business magazine featured Claire. The headline read, "The leader no one saw coming." At the end of the article, she was asked one question. Why did your grandmother trust you? Claire answered simply. She listened when everyone else talked. YouTube-style ending. If Eleanor and Claire's story moved you, remember this. Quiet strength is still strength. Trust reveals potential others overlook. Leadership isn't inherited, it's earned. Like this video if you believe in unexpected empowerment. Subscribe for more real-life emotional stories. Turn on the bell so you never miss a story that matters. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the future belongs to the one nobody noticed.